Hi, I'm Jeff Farnwell, Director of the MBA program at Rockford University. About 18 months ago, the Rockford Chamber of Commerce set out to make networking easier in Rockford by identifying area people you should know in business. Currently, 41 people have been recognized and celebrated as one of these people. This series of talks, held at Rockford University, was designed to provide a vehicle for the public to hear from and learn about each of the people you should know. I hope you enjoy this talk.
Devices, please. And today we have the pleasure of having Kevin Polky here. Kevin has over 25 years of experience working with individuals, families, and organizations in the northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin area. He is a licensed clinical social worker, certified alcohol and drug counselor, certified school social worker, certified life coach, former football and strength coach, and personal trainer. He is also the founder and president of KP Counseling Incorporated and Four Corners Wellness Center. Along with working with individual clients and their families, Kevin also facilitates 3 men's groups. He conducts workshops, seminars, and serves as a consultant to large and small businesses, schools, and churches. He volunteers with many local schools and churches, teaching adults and youth classes on a variety of psychosocial and spiritual material. Kevin has written or co-authored 3 different leadership programs: Working with Disruptive Students 1 and 2, sorry, I'm having a hard time talking today, Solution-Focused Safety Program, developing a safety culture within a manufacturing or industrial environment, and Striving for Excellence, developing a culture of excellence within the industrial environment. Kevin enjoys spending time with his family, exercising, reading, and being in God's presence through nature. Kevin is also a 2014, one of the 2014 people you should know. And the reason why we're passing around is for your name and email address, in case you want any more information from Kevin. So I think you've all probably already signed it, but if you want additional information, that would be great if you haven't signed it. Please help me welcome. Thank you.
Well, Michelle, thank you for that introduction. I went through that. I'm like, ooh, wow. I didn't remember I submitted all that stuff. But thank you again. And thank you again for coordinating all this, and Rockford University for hosting, as well as for the Rockford Chamber for encouraging us, the individuals who were elected as 20 people you should know. And I'm still trying to figure out what that's all about and why I was picked. But thank you for coming. It's been just absolutely beautiful today. I had an opportunity to be outside at one of the parks, and it was just beautiful. So I'm very glad that we have maybe spring upon us right now. So, well, thank you for coming, and let's go ahead and get started. I'm used to doing this talk somewhere between an hour to 6 hours, so we're going to see what we can do in the next 20 to 30 minutes, okay? All right. Michelle, you did a great job with this introduction, so I'm not going to go over a lot of this again, but I am going to point out probably, I went to Harlem High School, graduated from Harlem. I graduated from Rock Valley College, Illinois State University, and then the University of Illinois is where I got my graduate work. The very last line is probably where my education really happened. I've been with my wife for 23 years. My son is 19 years old, and he is a freshman here at Rockford University, and plays football here and is a pre-social work major and just loves it here. And my daughter is at Rockford Christian as a sophomore, and she's in performing arts. So I get the best of both worlds, performing arts world and the athletic world, and I learn constantly from them, as well as having a theater mom. Kind of like a soccer mom, but it's very no, I'm not. It's not dramatic. Is there anything else up there? Nope, I think I've gotten everything. So what are we going to learn today? What I'm hoping that we learn during this time period together is how to be a resource or be an expert. What is transformation? And what is this idea of what is Four Corners' perspective to transformation? To me, the stories that we tell ourselves is what we think about, and then what we see outside to validate or reinforce the story that we tell ourselves. For the majority of us here, we're either students, and looking to be emerging leaders. We are leaders. Bruce told me that how much of a leader he is. Or we're educators, or in some kind of helping profession. Rockford has been getting some bad press, as we all know. And that is the story that some people think of us. That's the story that some people here may even tell themselves. But last Thursday, a horrific thing happened. And the response to that has been overwhelming. We've gotten national attention regarding that tornado and the devastation of it. But hopefully, they've also seen how the Rockford area has responded with volunteers, how the Red Cross has had to actually ask people, we have enough volunteers. We have enough supplies. That's us. We've responded in. That's also our story. That's the story that we tell ourselves too. So, as I mentioned, you guys have an extremely important job. One, you provide hope, and you serve others. You're here, so that means you choose to make a difference. You choose to want something to be better. And this last line of wanting to make an impact on your community, wanting to make an impact within your businesses, within your classroom, and within your families. You chose to be here for a reason. You chose to be here, and how can I stretch myself? How can I learn something more? To do something maybe out of your norm. So, during this time period, I'm hopefully going to be able to present some information, a couple tidbits that you might be able to leave. Hopefully you might take something away and maybe want to move or be inspired to do something and continue to be encouraged to make that difference. Hopefully also that you'll be engaged in this journey that we're going to be on for the next 20 minutes or so. Okay. So, for me, stories. I love stories, and I love however stories are. When someone telling me stories, reading stories, listening to stories, or what we're going to see next, a really short clip and watching someone's story on video. And this whole thing with social media and why we can get access to inspirational stories. And this next story about how someone changed their stars, how someone made some effort to change their life. We're just going to watch a little bit of a clip of that.
Looking back on it, when I got to where I am, I don't know if it was because I was running towards something or running away from it. But that didn't matter. What I did know is when you run into something bigger, something bigger, something with the power to knock you down, you have to trust in yourself. Trust that you can get back up and not give in. Ever. Because power isn't just about going forward. In yourself.
As you might have noticed, I didn't make that video. Duracell did that one. that story for a lot of reasons besides loving football, and for all the years I played and coached and watched my son play and my nephew. But the storyline of what Patrick did to get from where he was at to where he pros, and to me that story doesn't matter if it's true or not, because if I believe the story, it's true for me. I believe in the possibility. So let's go on to the next piece of, so what would you rather be? Known as an expert or known as a resource? Many times in our society, in our culture, I continue to go to graduate school, I continue to strive, sometimes as an expert. You've arrived, if you're an expert, if you have all these credentials that you heard earlier. But what happens if you're an expert? Or what is an expert? Well, an expert is, according to the dictionary, experience or knowledge of a particular subject. What comes along with being an expert? A lot of pressure to have the answer when they come to you. I think, Bruce, we were talking earlier, because of your position, there's an expectation that you are going to. So there's that expectation, right? It can be limiting. They may think you know more than you may know. It can be exhausting to always feel that they want you to have the answer. And I think this is the key. I may have a lot of experience with weightlifting or with football or with counseling, working with individuals. And I may have a lot of experience with that, and I may have had a lot of exposure to that. But everything I was exposed to was before I walked in this room. It was my past. It may not necessarily have a lot to do with me right at the moment. So I was an expert about what I was doing, and now the people who are in front of me, this is a whole new experience than before I walked in the room. So I may have an expertise about past, but I may have limited information about what's currently going on. So what's a resource? Or a resource is something that can be used as a source of aid or support. There's less pressure to have the answer. We partner with others. It's a dynamic process. It's a growing process if you're a resource. And we empower others. We're working with others to help them find the answer for their own story or develop their own story instead of me telling them what their story is. So again, let's say an expert is an expert fisherman. Let's say he has won, if there's such a thing as national bass fishing tournament, and he's able to, or she is able to win these tournaments and won them consecutively. TV shows, maybe on the box of Wheaties or something. He's definitely seen as an expert, or she's seen as an expert. But can I teach my daughter to bass fish? I may go to the store and I always expect them to be able to give me food because I give them money. If I'm able to know how to fish myself, then I might be able to feed myself if the store is closed. So that may be the difference between an expert, because we know there's a lot of it. I know myself, there's been a lot of individuals that were great at a particular sport, but when it came to coaching, they weren't necessarily as proficient as coaches. And so that's the difference in my thinking right now between a resource and an expert. So I just want to throw that out to you. So what is transformation? Transformation, according to the dictionary again, not Kevin, a complete or major change in someone or something's appearance, form, etc. So a complete overhaul, a complete change. In Rockford right now, we use the word transformation a lot. We talk about it a lot. I like that term. I talk to my counselors about transformational counseling. A friend of mine is starting a new ministry program, and he's talking about transformational ministry. I like the term. So how does it mean in real life? I think, at least for today, it may change next week, more than a behavioral change is transformation, more than a thought change but it's a change of heart. It's that this change of heart is influencing my behavior and my thoughts. Being a former personal trainer, working with athletes, they'll come to me and they either want to lose weight, someone may have hired me as a personal trainer regarding that, and so in our culture we go on diets. Diets, as we know, we've heard about, many, many times fail. Because they're set up to fail. Because there's an end point. And you'll never guess how I'm going to celebrate. Back in the bodybuilding days, would go on a diet, I would instantly think I'm depriving myself of something. I'd focus more on what I can't have. Even if I hadn't had a donut in a couple years, I now wanted a donut, and I knew where Mr. Donut and all those other Mr. Donut's a long time ago, those donut. So I would much rather encourage a lifestyle change or how they view food differently, how they view their activity level differently than going on a diet from something. I'm a drug and alcohol counselor, so we talk about not just sobriety, not just being absent of alcohol or heroin or marijuana or whatever it may be. What we encourage them is to go into recovery. It's not just sobriety, but it's about being clean or recovery process. And as you go through that recovery process, and from that change, then we see that they're seeing things differently. Choosing, not because they have to, but because they desire to be over here versus being over there. That's what I believe is transformational change. We may look at, as the last line I put up there, is that we may look at the difference between a job and a career. We've all had jobs at different times in our life that we may not want to do for the remainder of our life. But when we have career security, it doesn't matter where we're working. That where we're working, we're doing what we've intended to do, what we're gathering to be more of a more knowledge and more information and more experiences with. What can you do to be a resource? Yes. I don't know if this is going to be popular or not, but I think the only way that if we really want to go through transformational change and help with transformational change and want to be a resource and then be full, what am I doing regarding myself? This is where we come into the four corners perspective. It started when I first, or in the early 90s, I came up with this model when I first started working with alcoholics and addicts at Oakwood Hospital. That was a psychiatric hospital here back in the early 90s. During that time period, being a couple years out of college and not having a lot of experience, clinical experience, and really just trying to survive, I was trying to make sense of it. Hole in their soul, something to fill up. Balance was missing, and every time they tried to go from to fill this up, they tried to attach themselves to that, regardless of substance or a person. Then what would end up happening is the tighter slipped out. So that made me start thinking, what are people doing? I looked at my own self. I'm like, okay, well, Kevin, you kind of did that. You kind of did it from a physical end. You tried to, with wrestling, and then, okay, all right, I don't think I'm going to play in pros, being football, I'm too short. I don't think I'm going to be able to be a wrestler. That was going to be my ticket. So I won the Teenage Mr. USA. I was ranked number 1 in the nation. Tried that path, and that wasn't it. license and get this certificate, that is going to she said, you know, if you just settle down. Now, I love being married, and I love my kids. Spiritual. My spiritual is for empathy. Our feelings and desire, our commonality with feelings, and that's where we're passionate. That's the area of the things that we're passionate about. Values, intuition, our contact with the divine. In this model, that's also what applies. In this model, for me, religion does not necessarily go into spiritual. Religion would go primarily in this model, or at least the elementary part of this model, would go into the intellectual part of it. Now, as you think about that for a moment, there's a good example. Just like education, just like with school, no one institution is going to be restricted to one domain. There is an overlap, a bleeding into other ones. So as you try to make a circle and then you try to make lines, so there's really this. When I think of spiritual, I think about what's important. So for our time today, I'm going to give you an idea of how do we exercise this. For me, how do I break down my week so that I can exercise all 4 areas? Because if I don't have a plan, then I'm going to just go based upon, well, what feels good, what is. I need something set up so that I can have some structure to it. So I have Monday, how am I exercising the physical domain, the intellectual domain, the emotional domain, and the spiritual domain. Here's an example of what I might do on a Monday. Work out with weights in the morning would be possibly one example. One thing I'm going to intentionally do that day. I may intentionally read a particular business book, listen to quadrant. Day that might get together, and I'm going to look forward to at 6 o'clock. That's on my schedule, so something else doesn't. I'm going to gravitate to or before I came here today, a block of time, instead of going and running and answering emails, I went out to the park and I walked. Got me ready for doing the talk today. And so this is an example. Of what each one of those areas are. Again, physical could be exercise, any type of exercise, yoga, stretching, walking, massage. How do we go about doing this? Get information from a nutritionist, or we might hire a personal trainer to kickstart a program that may be something. It may not be about the knowledge or information where you're going to begin. Ability. Intellectual, listen to a podcast, maybe taking a class, maybe working with a consultant or a coach or executive coach. Emotional. This could be music, poetry, spending time with a good close friend, maybe that part. For me, when I'm listening to a speaker that is inspiring, currently. spiritual. It may be, or it may be, again, first, so that my body's exhausted, so that my mind will slow down. My voice gets so loud that sometimes I can't hear. I don't think he's ever not talking. I just think it's me that can't hear. Get ready to wrap up for today. What's that you're that Rockford is the place you don't want to live because of addiction? Or is it the story Rockford is the town, the Rockford is the so hold back. Can you come back tomorrow? Because these guys are going to be tired. What story are you following? Identify that, have a plan. Just like I had that grid, have a plan, because having a plan is even if programs for this last piece, to me, is a great video that I believe that each one of us can do. For me, when I'm in that place, when I'm balanced, when I'm striving toward that balance, when I'm in that good place, instead of being like this, exercises. This next video that you'll see is what I really believe. This informational in our home. me, I and then that or reinforce that. If I can keep life striving for 4 areas of having each one of those 4 balance, it's easy on a day like I am in the moment. It becomes difficult, and then I have to go. Difference because no one may be paying attention, but it will. We get to start with our transformation first. Again, I did stretch this. We went longer than we were. There's a lot more information about this. I'm developing some to go farther into each one of these domains. Would you like any more information about that? Feel free to email me. Some cards up there, and we'll see if we can help you out. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming.